And today we commemorate St. Patrick, and he is, we might say, the father in faith, particularly for Ireland. He is the apostle and patron saint of Ireland. You know, I used to think that he is from Ireland originally, but he was actually born in Great Britain in the 4th century. And when he was a teenager, he was taken into captivity and exiled to Ireland. There, he was sold into slavery. You know, he was put to work as a swineherd, and he sees this captivity as a punishment for his sins, you know, a punishment from God. You know, he describes it himself in his writing, in his confession. But just a side note about his confession, it is his own writing which we still have access today. You know, he wrote it during his lifetime because of the many made-up stories that were circling around his fellow Christians in Britain and Gaul at the time. So he felt called to defend himself in writing, and in a way we are fortunate to have his own writing because of those stories you know, told about him that were untrue and perhaps unjust. And if that did not happen, maybe we won't have this main source of details about his life. It's not too long to read. It's only 38 small pages. But anyway, as I mentioned, how St. Patrick, you know, see his own slavery as the punishment that God, you know, gave him for his sins. And he described it, like I said, in his confession. He said, you know, he was about 16 years at the time and did not know the true God. You know, he said, we deserved this slavery because we had turned away from God. You know, we neither kept his commandments nor obeyed our pastors who used to warn us of our salvation. The Lord's fury boiled over on us, and he scattered us among many nations. And when God punishes, it's always, you know, he always do it out of love. He always has a purpose of bringing the sinner to repentance, because he does not wish the death of the sinner, but wishes that he would convert back to him, that he would have a conversion of heart. And this is exactly what happened to St. Patrick. You know, he responded to God's call for repentance. He converted back to him during his captivity in Ireland. So he became a man of prayer. He became a man of deep faith. Again, in his confession, he said, when I had come to Ireland, I tended herds every day, and I used to pray many times during the day. He said, more and more my love of God and reverence for him began to increase. My faith grew stronger and my zeal so intense that in the course of a single day, I would say as many as 100 prayers, and almost as many in the night. He said, this I did even when I was in the woods and on the mountains, even in times of snow, of frost or rain, I would rise before dawn to pray. He said, I never felt the worse for it, nor was I in any way lazy, as I now realize I was full of enthusiasm. His relationship with God, St. Patrick's relationship with God, became so intimate that God often spoke to him directly. You know, during his captivity, God told him that he would soon go back to his own country. He would soon be free from his, being exiled. And with God's strength, you know, God even showed him the ship that would take Patrick out of Ireland back to Britain. And with God's strength, Patrick escaped from his slavery in Ireland. And yet, several years later, when he's back home in Britain, he saw a vision of a man called Victor in a dream. And he appeared to have come from Ireland with an unlimited number of letters. So he gave Patrick one of the letters, and then he read the opening words, which were the voice of the Irish. And then when Patrick read the beginning of the letter, he seemed at the same time to hear the voice, as if the voice of those who were near the Western Sea, and the voice shouted as if one voice, "We ask you, holy boy, come and walk once more among us." And he was, right there, he was cut to the very heart, and he could read no more of the letters. And that was the singular moment, that was the singular grace that led St. Patrick to journey with God and to accomplish his divine will. And he became a priest later on, and later on became a bishop, and he tirelessly preached the gospel to the people of Ireland, where he converted many to the faith and established the church there. What led Patrick to freedom from his captivity and ultimately became a saint was his generous response to God in conversion. His response to him through prayers during his captivity plays a major role to become who he is today. He prays, and God led him to genuine freedom.